Joining us now, the president of Elevation Global Strategies and former executive editor of Defense One, Kevin Barron. Kevin, nice to see you. Okay, so what does this precedent do? The fact that Donald Trump is calling in the National Guard, what kind of precedent does this set? And how is this process supposed to go? I've covered a lot of demonstrations. I've covered a lot of riots, and obviously one is not equating the other. And I've never been at one where the National Guard was called in, not at the behest of the governor or the mayor, right? Usually it gets out of control of local law enforcement, it gets too big, and they ask for help. That didn't happen in this case. How is this supposed to go?
Yeah, nobody's been in a situation like that, right? So we've heard since L.A. after Rodney King. We're old enough to remember that. It sets a precedent, and it's something I've been speaking about recently, watching this, how it just reminds me that this is what we were told was coming on the campaign trail last year, and frankly, dating all the way back to the George Floyd protests when Trump was asking his team, we now know through lots of reporting, what could they do? He even said publicly, he asked if we could shoot the protesters, whether you think they're protesters or riots. So we know that President Trump has been, he's one to want to get involved and use whatever power he has to look strong in these situations and put down the situation. Trump and Stephen Miller, these advisors, have been arguing and advocating on the sidelines ever since then, for years now, that this is what they think should happen. This is what they think the president has the authority to do. That if a state like California, or frankly any other blue state, we know they're targeting blue states, is going to get in the way, then the president's going to send in the troops. And in this case, it's the Guard and maybe the Marines to come. So, the precedent that one would expect is it's not going to be just L.A. Listen to what the president's saying. Listen to what, Stephen Miller and those folks are tweeting. I would expect that the president's going to try to do this in San Francisco and in Chicago and in Boston. I think he might not do it as quickly in some place like Florida with the Republican governor, but I would expect a lot more to come.
It seems like they have been heading to this point, and it was, possibly something like this was inevitable given where these policies are going. I want to ask you, on Saturday, Governor Newsom took to social media and wrote that the federal government took over the National Guard and deployed those troops, quote, not because there's a shortage of law enforcement, but because they want a spectacle. The LAPD is the third largest police force in the country. It also has the largest municipal airborne operation in the world, all those helicopters. Is this something LA could have handled on its own?
Sure. It seems like they could handle this now on their own. The problem is, what is the this? The this is there are federal law enforcement agents, ICE, who are being sent to round up migrants and illegal immigrants, sometimes legal American citizens in those roundups. And now there are citizens who have had enough and they're fed up and they're trying to get in the way. This is not something that was initially started out as local law enforcement versus federal. It's because citizens are getting in the way. That's a different argument. I don't see how, that's not the president versus Gavin Newsom. That is what now Gavin Newsom was tweeting then, saying, hey, don't give them what they want. That's a noble call, but you see, you're asking families to not step in the way of your family members being disappeared. We know that it's reached this pitch because the federal government has been pushing it towards this pitch. And I think a lot of your last segment covered very well the dangers here of involving not just local police, not just National Guard under federal control or potentially Marines, but things like FBI. Who knows however many different law enforcement groups might get into the same area. And this has been my concern since, I think, frankly, before even Inauguration Day, that as soon as we started seeing in Washington one group of law enforcement entering a government building to confiscate materials, to get in the way of a different security agency, suddenly you have two different security agencies both thinking that they're operating legally and lawfully, going head to head. It's one thing when it's like looking for data at USAID in Washington. It's something else, as we're seeing right now, when it's gun to gun on the street.